This is from Anthony Perez from Crestwood. He asks, who's your favorite White Sox player of all time? He wants you to pick one.
Mark Burley.
Yeah.
Mark Burley. You know, we've had some great players here. You know, the Big Hurt, Paul Konerko, Robin Ventura. And I played against, you know, of course, the White Sox, when I played against them, they really didn't have a lot of great players. They had some great pitchers, but since all my years with the White Sox, Mark Burley to me he reminds me so much of one of my favorite teammates, Catfish Hunter. I mean, Jason, you didn't know him or see him, but they were like bookends. One's right-handed, one's left-handed. They're both about the same size. They both had the same kind of humor. They both had the same kind of tempo when they got on the mound. Get it, throw strikes, get somebody out. And if they lost, they lost. And meanwhile, they're going to be out there the next fourth day, you know. And Burley was one of the great teammates here in Konerko. And people ask me about the Big Hurt all the time. And I tell them, I said, well, look, I don't know about eugenics, but I know what kind of a player he was. You know? And so I tell them, one thing that always reminded me about the Big Hurt was he played hurt.
Yeah.
And he never complained about it. He wouldn't let you know a lot of times, you know, unless you're real close to him. And he and I were real close. And he would say, don't mention anything about it, you know, and I wouldn't. But he was hurt, and he'd still go out there and bust his behind. I never saw him dog it one time out there on the field. And, you know, those are the kind of guys that we had some other good players that would dog it a lot, and I couldn't stand them.
Yeah.
And they didn't last very long because they didn't last very long with Reinsdorf either.
Right.
You know,
he doesn't tolerate that.
Oh, no, not if you're in a White Sox uniform.
This one for me, for a kid who was walking around fifth grade gym class saying you can put it on the board. This is from Daniel Mann in Chicago, who asks, what is your favorite Hawkism?
He gone. You know, all these things that I use that they call Hawkisms now. There were things that I said when I played. I'd be in right field in Fenway Park, and all of a sudden, you know, here comes Mantle or Carol Abreu to the plate. Lonborg would throw a high fastball, strike him out. And I say, he gone, get some other SOB up there, you know. That was, and grab some bench. It's just, I think, you know, you can't, excuse me, you can't sit around and like nicknames and everything. And I've had players come up to me, give me a nickname. And I said, well, do something that will cause me to give you a nickname.
Yeah.
You know, I just can't come out and give you a nickname. And it has to be spontaneous. And when I played, Jason, everybody had a nickname. If they didn't have a nickname, you call them by the number. It's like one of my all-time idols was Al Kaline. And to the day he died, God rest his soul, he used to come into the booth all the time. And I'd say, "Hi, Six, how you doing?" That was his number. Yeah. And that's what we did. Everybody, you very seldom call anybody by their name. You call them by either the nickname or the number. And the one thing is I loved watching these guys play today. The one thing I feel a little bad about is because it's turned into an agent's game. I mean, it really has. Agents, the most powerful man in baseball is Boras. You know, Scott Boras, the most powerful man in baseball, because I think the combined salaries of his stable is over $2 billion. And I just want to see them get. If it's left up to Scott Boras, this thing's not going to get fixed. I can tell you that right now. It's just like Donald Fear back in '94. Everybody was waiting to see the Sox and the Montreal Expos hook up in the World Series because those by far were the two best teams. And Donald Fear was not a baseball fan. He didn't give a damn about baseball. He just wanted to leave a legacy, so to speak, you know, because of Miller. But what's going on right now with the game, these guys just don't have as much fun as we did. You know, I can remember Louis Teont, for an example. The year he won the Cy Young and set the all-time American League record, which still stands at 160. I hit 3 home runs off him in the game in Cleveland. So they come back a few week later or so and play us in Fenway. And he comes up to me at the batting cage, which guys did back in those days. They don't do it anymore. But he came up to me. He goes, honk. He couldn't call me Hawk. He goes, honk. He said, I'm going to blow your ass away 4 times today. Well, after the first 3 times, he blew me away. You know, I'm standing up there. He looks in. He says, where you on it? And I said, right here. So he threw it right there, and I hit a little 2-hopper to the shortstop.
And you celebrated.
And then I tipped my cap to him going back. And then Denny McClain, when he was going after his 30th victory, or no, his 25th victory, his 25th victory a year, he had Dalton Jones, Yastrzemski, and myself all coming to the plate. And somehow there was a walk in a couple errors, and the bases were loaded, nobody out. So he threw 3 fastballs right here to Dalton Jones, blew him away. Yaz is the next guy. And Yaz, you know, was the greatest player that I ever played with, you know. But he threw in 3 fastballs right here and blew him away. So now I go to the plate, and I'm looking for fastballs right here. Well, he threw me 3 sliders on the black. I never swung the bat. Now I go out to right field, and he comes to the top step of the dugout after he goes back into the dugout, and he holds out his arms like this, and I go.
I love it.
We had fun back in those days. You know, you played your ass off. You played hard, and you wanted to win. But when you go up, and Ted Williams said it the best. He said, Hawk, there are going to be a lot of games you're going to go to that batter's box, and that guy 60 feet, 6 inches from you is going to be better than you are that night. And if he hits those spots, you're going to be 0 for 4. He said, you can never realize your potential until you understand how to take an 0 for 4. And that's very profound.
Yeah,
and he was right. He was right. I'm telling you what, these major league pitchers don't make all that money because they're going to hang sliders and curveballs to you all the time. And sometimes, you know, very seldom you're going to go play in a game that you don't get a good pitch to hit. Now, you might only get 1, but you better hit it. You better hit it hard because these guys are pretty good.
Well, that all you're saying about having fun on the game, like if there are games with no crowd, I'd be in favor of miking up some of the players. I know you couldn't do it live. What do you think?
Perfect. Miking some players and also putting in some crowd noise from, you know, the amplifier, because sound is a big thing. Sound is one thing that gets guys juiced up. Sound is one thing that gets that adrenaline flowing. And we did that game in Baltimore, you know, when the thing.
The riots, yeah.
Adam Jones was in the on-deck circle in the bottom of the first inning, and he and I had a conversation like you and I are having right now. And players were laughing their behinds off because of the fact it was weird. It was eerie. But if they would mic some players and if they would put some crowd noise in, I think that would really help. It wouldn't solve it, but it really helped to solve the problem.
Yeah. This is from Joe S. in Crown Point, Indiana, another Sox season ticket holder. He asks, who's the toughest pitcher you faced as a player?
Well, you got to categorize them. You know, who was the best right-hander, who was the best left-hander, who was the best starter, who was the best reliever. The best pitcher, the best stuff I've ever seen to this day was sudden Sam McDowell.
Really?
Sam McDowell to this day had 4 pitches. There's not anybody that I've seen in the major leagues have 4 pitches like he has. He threw over 100 miles an hour. He had a curveball you could hear. Zip. He had a slider you could hear go zip. The only pitch he's had that you couldn't hear was a changeup. Now, when you're facing a guy that you can hear 3 of his pitches, you've got a problem.
That's right.
The best pitcher that I ever faced was Catfish Hunter. He didn't have anything. If he hit you right here, it wouldn't hurt. You just reach down, pick up the ball, and throw it back to him. All he did was beat you, like Mark Burley. Mark Burley was the same way. Mark Burley could hit you in the head with a fastball. It didn't hurt. All he did was beat you. And all he did was, you know, it's a known fact you play better when you play fast. And Mark, in his era, he should be in the Hall of Fame. Mark Burley, and he's got a good chance of going because he set some records that'll never be broken. It's just like AJ. AJ has set some catcher's records that will never be broken for innings caught, games caught, and thing. And these guys down the road have got to be considered, and they probably will be for the Hall of Fame. But you get guys like that, it's just like in 05. We don't win that world championship without AJ. Just that simple.
And people don't realize how hard it is to catch as long as he did and put up the numbers he did.
Plus, he's such a big guy. In fact, he was over here an hour ago. He was stealing, I told you, a couple of beers from us. I got a little refrigerator there by a pool, and he'll come in. And I said, "Did you get a beer?" He said, "No, I got 2." And then Robert Dameron, who's just like a son to us, Robert won the tournament down in Texas, Byron Nelson Open one year. In fact, Robert, here's a nice piece of trivia for golf fans, because Chicago is the greatest golf. It's the greatest golf city in the world. Robert Dameron, who lived with us for a couple of years when he was going to high school, won more money in his career than Arnold Palmer and Jack Nicklaus combined.
Is that right?
Combined.
Wow.
Is that trivia or what?
How about that? I would not. I mean, I know the name, and I remember him as I was watching. I know the name for sure, but I wouldn't have guessed that.
Yeah, well, his dad Bill and his brother Patrick. I mean, that family is just like our family, And we've been here now at Bay Hill for 30 years, and I watched Dameron from the time that he was a baby, and come up and everything else. And he, as I said, he lived with us going to Dr. Phillips when he won the state championship in golf here, the medalist. But again, it's just been on and on and on for me. All these great things that I've been honored and privileged to be a part of in my life. It's just, but when you talk about great players, I used to just absolutely, George Brett was a great player. He was a guy that never dogged it. Kaline was my first idol in the American League. And Kaline used to, when you came in as a rookie, Louisville Slugger, you got all the 15 and 20 grain bats, which if you hit one, it left an impression on the bat.
Right.
Stars like Kaline and Madeline Musil and all those guys, they got the 3 and the 4 grain bats, the wide ones,
right,
like iron. So Kaline used to always slip me a bat or two, and Mickey would always slip me a bat or two, because we played golf together and got to be friendly. But I've had so many great thrills in this game, and so many great honors in this game. And as I said, 05 White Sox World Championship was my all-time favorite.
People should know how genuinely wonderful of a guy Al Kaline was. He was always so gracious to me the last couple of years in Detroit. I mean, just a great, great man. You know
what? He literally was a tiger.
Yeah.
When he put that jockstrap on, he was a tiger. When he took it off, he was one of the most genteel guys, but a competitor. And I remember a game we were playing him. I had a bad ankle, and I wasn't playing. I was sitting in the dugout, and we used to go over the players in the meetings, and then we get to Kaline, don't knock him down, don't piss him off, don't make him mad. So we had this one pitcher that was fairly new, came in, and relief, we had a lead, and the first pitch, he threw one right back here on line. Right back here. And Kaline's shoulders went up, he landed on his shoulders. He gets up and he backs out of the box, and he looks at this guy for about 15 seconds or so. Gets back in, and this guy had a real good greaser, a real good spitter. And he threw him one. Kaline hit it in the center field upper deck. He's going out of the box, getting to first base, and he said, "You SOB, don't you ever knock me down." He was just a great, great competitor. But we used to have individual battles like that, and then it was all good because we'd all probably go to the same bar after the game and have a beer together.
Yeah, the camaraderie was great.
Well, that's the reason I love hockey so much. Hockey's the same way. Hockey's really my favorite sport to watch. I love it. And hockey players are my favorite athletes, because I always, when I was playing golf and, and winning some of those tournaments and the celebrity golf thing, I always played practice rounds with hockey players.
Yeah.
And they go out and beat the hell out of each other. And after the game, they're having drinks and beers together.
Yeah. Who was your favorite hockey player to golf with?
I guess it was the best hockey player that I played with was Mario Lemieux.
Really?
The guy that I like to play with the most was Pierre LaRouche.
Okay.
We played a practice round down at Dan Marino's tournament in Miami one year, and Pierre shot in the practice round, shot like 65. Well, there was a hockey game in Miami that night, and they went out to the hockey game, and Pierre got all plastered. I mean, he just got smoked. He plays the next day. He shot 92. And you know what? He had fun doing it too.
That's awesome.
Bobby Orr was another guy. I'll tell you a cute story about hockey. Bobby and Derek Sanderson used to come over to my place when I was playing with the Red Sox. And so they'd come over occasionally before a game. And Derek, I remember that Montreal was coming into town, and they had a guy. Derek says, "Okay, who you want me to get tonight?" I say, "Go get number 22. That was a guy named John Ferguson from the Canadiens. Tough dude. Well, sure enough, Derek got on the ice with him first time, got his shirt over his head, and just pounded him. So now Toronto comes to town, and they had a big defenseman named Pat Quinn.
Yeah.
And he had given Bobby a cheap shot. And I knew Bobby didn't like him. So Bobby said, "Who you want us to get tonight?" I said, "We'll get Quinn." He said, "I'll get that son of a." So he did. He got him behind the net, and Bobby was not that big, but he was he was good with these. He was like Bob Uecker. He was real good.
Yeah.
So now the Red Wings come into town. So they come over to the apartment, and Derek says, "Who you want us to get tonight?" And I said, "Go get the old man." He goes, "Bleep you." They didn't want any part. They didn't want any part of the old man. I'll tell you, they said he'll put 40 stitches in your face and they'll never see it. Gordie Howe.
Yeah, right.
I played golf with Gordie up in Detroit at a charity event, and what a nice guy he was. He had forearms on him like that.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. This is the last season ticket holder question. It's from Joe D. in Geneva, who asks, "What's your favorite place to eat in Chicago?"
Ditka's. I also like Greek Islands.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll tell you, it's Jeff Shearer. He's one of the greatest sports fans in the world, and he's almost one of the greatest golf courses in the world too. Lost Dunes down in Bridgman, Michigan, and I love the guy. We all love him. But that golf course he's got down there, that's where I would take my family, either to Ditka's, and they're going to close Ditka's downtown. The lease is running out, but he's still got the one out in. He's got two of them stuff left in Chicago, in Oak Brook, and another one somewhere else. But that food is just, you can tie it, but you can't beat it.
Yeah. Hawk, it's been such a pleasure chatting with you. Thank you so much for spending the time. It's great to hear your voice, and it's great to hear you tell some stories.
And let me tell you something. I enjoy you so much, buddy.
Thank you.
Just stay right where you are, because you're just going this way.
Well, what people need to know about you before we go is that from minute one, when you knew I was going to be the guy who took the job in 2016, who got hired by the Sox and Bob Grimm and Brooks Boyer and Jerry Reinsdorf, you were so gracious and so kind and so supportive from minute one. And not everybody would do that. Not many people would do that. You always have been. And your texts of congratulations and of support have meant so much to me. So thank you.
You know what? I love you, buddy.
I love you too. I grew up watching you. I feel it's weird for me to even be talking to you still, because I feel like you should be in my television.
All right. Take care. You guys be safe and be healthy.
Thank you. You too, Hawk, and to your family too.